And good morning. It's your friendly neighborhood Tironan. And today we have the FJ-1 Fury. And today I'm flying the 9 and everybody else is flying 8s. Except one guy in a MiG-9. And since I have mostly been flying this along better equipped Tier 9s, I'm going to enjoy it. I do have some speed advantage here, and by God, I want to use it. Except the JM8, that thing is quick.
We've taken over the forward airfield. Nice work.
Now, so for dark background does not help your aiming much, does it? Okay, so let's see what we can do here. And again, the short range on the guns remains the pain in the posterior that it always was. Believe it or not, I consider the more dangerous of the two aircraft to be the Spitfire. I'll take care of him first. The heck out of Dodge here. For these to be cannon fodder for that 152. See, we're being shot at already. Well, the bad thing about machine guns, they don't do a whole lot of damage, but then again, they don't overheat. About 20 millimeter run out long ago. But and now we finally discovered the MiG-9. Let's go see if we can get him to make a rookie mistake. Wow, he almost kissed the ground. And he did He overshot me. Now if I have any amount of boost, and I need it right now. He's almost dead. Alright. Take the flaps back off.
Receiving reports about rapidly deteriorating weather conditions. The fort will be unable to reach you. Do you read me? Over. The enemy is about to win. Push harder.
I'm sure shooting you is a lot of fun. There's your payback.
That's it. There's no way to break through you now. You're on your own.
There's my payback. My.
Be advised, the enemy is concentrating forces near the airfield. You've done what you could. Go back to base.
Well, I certainly did my bit. I'm not going to complain too much. Okay, so we had a good experience even though we lost. I shot down 11 aircraft and assisted in destroying 1. Sectors captured 2. Well, 4,000 experience points, 201 free experience points, and 105,000 silver. He fought pretty well. Doesn't cost you anything to be polite and acknowledge somebody else's good performance. Okay, so these are the top on each. And that will wrap that up. I wanted to talk a little bit about the aircraft itself, its historical precedence, and it's an important aircraft, even though this just barely made it in production and not for long. It actually did make it in production, 2 prototypes, and then the Navy procured 30 of these. They were not suitable for carrier operations, which is what they wanted it for. And you will notice that in a lot of ways it's a very transitional aircraft. You do not have the all-flying tail. You have a P-51 tail here. You do not have swept wings. You have a P-51's wings. Instead of 20 millimeters, you have 50s. And the fuselage, of course, is brand new. Great pilot visibility in this. And one of the features was this aircraft could actually kneel. And it would lay down, all the way down, and then another aircraft could, then its tail would be way up in the air, and then you could park another aircraft up underneath it here, which allowed the aircraft to be, for them to carry more aircraft in the hangar and in the aircraft stowage on the main deck, hangar, flight deck. Only 30 of them produced. They were never used operationally in the fleet. They were actually assigned to air station, and it allowed pilots to get good training with the aircraft. It wasn't a bad aircraft. It was just underpowered a little bit, and that was very common. The aircraft were, in fact, just the beginning of a series of aircraft. The 2 and 3 came out directly from this aircraft, and this aircraft is the direct predecessor of the F-86. Shortly after the aircraft was beginning to be produced, they found out about swept wings from German aircraft studies. And it wasn't just the U.S., it was Britain, France, Russia. Nobody had made that determination of just how much of an effect. And what you were battling was something called compressibility. So normally when you have an aircraft moving under 500 something miles an hour, the shock waves from that are way up here. When you get closer to the speed of sound, it begins to travel further and further back along the length of the wing until you get to here. And guess what happens? Those shock waves lock these ailerons into place. Same thing happens here and here. So when you begin to get into a dive and you're getting real near the speed of sound, all of a sudden you can't get out of the dive. And the only way out is to reduce your speed, cut your engine way back. If you have them, deploy air brakes and get out of that particular attitude. Your flight comes back, and some fighter pilots noticed that you got down to a much lower altitude where the speed of sound actually increased, and it is very dependent on air pressure. They would begin to return control, and they could get out of the dive. They found pilots with bent sticks. They had been trying to get out of that dive so badly. And then they attempted to power through it, and they put powered hydraulic actuators, and they actually ripped the tail off an aircraft or two. So there was no getting out of it, and it took a lot of study to figure out what was going on. The answer was for the P-38, P-47, and a couple others that were very prone to this, was to put on air brakes, and they would just put a big old paddle out there, sometimes mesh, sometimes not, and it would actually slow the aircraft down so you could regain control of the aircraft. Especially on the P-38 J8, J, and they became standard equipment on the L. They issued kits to the J and F. And then they got control of it. Okay, so this was a very important aircraft. The problem is that this was the least powerful of the aircraft, the FJ-4, and each one of those dashes were pretty major reconstructions, and the FJ-4 has more in line with a Sabre, albeit somewhat heavier, than it does with the original plane. And there wasn't, again, like the P-51H and the D or A, B or A. By the time all the things were completed, it wasn't really the same aircraft at all, and neither was the 2 or 3. But they're not listed in the upgrades here. And an F carried 20 millimeter cannons, which would be nice to have. So if I made a suggestion to World of Warplanes, it would be carry this line through, because you've got aircraft in the tech tree, and I'm going to bring up some of them. This is an actual in-use mass-produced fighter, as was this. This never made it past the prototype stage. This aircraft, I'm sorry, this aircraft was so dangerous that they bought the minimum number required by the contract, and the language used was so scathing it was ridiculous. There was that the performance is so overwhelming that no combat is deemed foreseeable with any modifications, and that was the end of the aircraft. They built them, they used them briefly. Some of these things only had 6 hours of flying time on them, and then they wrecked them. That's how much they thought of them. This aircraft is the Cutlass, and it probably killed more pilots than you want to think about. At least 25 pilots were killed with this aircraft. To say it was unpopular would be a massive understatement. Guys, we can do better than this. Okay? It comes out being quite the aircraft here, but gentlemen, I'm here to tell you we need to fix the aircraft lineup. I'm not saying take anything away from anybody, but you know, if you get replaced with a better aircraft, I don't think anybody's going to complain too much. If they want to keep it, let them keep it as a legacy aircraft. But when you got planes out there like the F-86H, the FJ-1, to name a few, why would you not put them on? Okay, they were actually fighting aircraft that could do the job and compete better too. Those are just my thoughts. I understand that World of Warplanes has got a whole plate full, and so I understand they're not going to get to everything at once, but it's my suggestion for what it's worth. Listen, this is your friendly neighborhood Tironan, and I am out. Oh, don't forget to like and subscribe.